Today, we're going to get a sneak peek into how our online banking experience, both mobile and desktop, come to be what they are. I've always been curious about how to land this type of job and how it looked like day to day. Hence, the purpose and the structure of this video are as follows. The first half deals with what type of potential background or skill set do you need or require to land this type of job, with the second half being more of your day in the life. What does that look like? What are kind of the technical aspects of making certain updates to the banking app or mobile site actually happen, and who all are involved? And finally, kind of more general questions of how does it look like working at one bank and then moving over to a competitor's? There's definitely a lot more, but with that, this is officially going to be the longest video on the channel, so do comment down below of how I can make this experience for the next time even better, or anything you'd like to improve. Happy to hear any type of feedback. And with that, I'll see you on the other side. What's going on, Bhargava? Thanks for doing this for everyone here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, Lilith. I'm excited to talk a little bit about what I do for a living.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So really quick before we start, for everyone, if you could just kind of give a high-level intro, kind of your background before we get into our actual topic at hand.
Yeah, for sure. So I went to the University of Texas at Austin, Hook'em Horns, and graduated in 2017. And I've been working in the financial industry for about 5 years now. So for about 3 years, I worked at Chase, and then I moved over to Citibank, where I've been working there for almost 2 years now. So at Chase, so I started right out of college, right, and I did what they called I did a program called the Chase Leadership Development Program, which was 3 separate jobs over 2 years. So I would do 8 months in one role, 8 months in another role, and 8 months in the third role. It was interesting because the first role, I didn't get to choose. They chose for me. The next 2 roles, I got to choose myself. I ended up staying. So after these 3 roles, you get to choose what you want to do full time. I ended up choosing the role that they chose for me, which is super interesting. So that was the great part of the program, was I got to find out what I like, what I don't like, etc. So yeah, it's a little bit about me.
What did you study in college, I guess, and did you have any internships before getting into this Chase Leadership Development Program?
Yeah.
That's the name, right?
Yeah. So exactly. So what I studied in college, I did. So I actually double majored. One of my majors was in corporate finance, and my second major was in economics. So graduated with both of those degrees, and I think having those degrees really helped me get into into that Chase Leadership Development Program. But before that, I did do an internship in Nashville, Tennessee, at Caterpillar Financial. So if you've ever seen those big yellow machines that say CAT, yeah, so they're financial arm to that company. So that was a cool experience. They put me up in the Vanderbilt dorms. I got to see Nashville, Tennessee. The work was a little bit boring, I'm not going to lie, like all internships can be. But it was a great experience, and it helped set me up for the future.
Nice. Do you think what you did, regardless of the direct work, kind of just the environment or otherwise, whether interview answers for the next step, do you think that internship helped you kind of, get that little edge for the next step?
Definitely. So that was the first time I actually ever worked in my life, was it for that internship. So understanding, interview etiquette, understanding how many times you get rejected before you get a job. So understanding those things got me ready for when the full-time job, interviewing and getting that position, came around. So it was definitely good practice. And also the job itself, I didn't know what to expect. Like I said, it was my first time working, so I didn't know, the corporate lifestyle, the 9 to 5 type of lifestyle, how it just feels physically to go to work for 8 hours, come back, make sure you go get some exercise or play some sports after. Just how that lifestyle is, because in college it's a little bit different. You kind of make your own schedule. You honestly do what you want, which you don't get to do in the real world. So I think that was almost more valuable than kind of the work experience itself. But that's personal.
No, that's fair. And so Caterpillar Financial,
Yep.
I didn't know they had a financial arm, so that's pretty cool. Did you have any other internships before getting your first full-time position?
That's a funny story. So I ended up doing 5 years of college, right? So
Okay.
The Caterpillar Financial was after my third year, junior year. And I was going into my senior year a little bit cocky about, having this good internship, double major, stuff like that. So I kind of waited to start interviewing for an internship, and it was too late. So it was too late, but I was actually, it was the second semester of my fourth year, and when I started interviewing. And if you don't know, you're too late if you start looking for jobs at the beginning of their first semester. What I found out the hard way is, if you really want to find a job, in the job that you want, you got to start looking before the first semester of your senior year even starts. So I ended up not getting a second internship, but that really made me, look internally, figure out, like, just understand that this is serious stuff. Things might not work out. So that actually, in a way, helped me get my life together for my full-time job. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise.
When you started with Chase, you kind of said they picked
Yeah.
something for you. So
Right.
was that, what type of role, I guess, did you start off with? Did you
Yeah.
have 3 different roles? Or
Right.
you know?
So I started off as in the digital product organization. So what that means is, I was in the business and commercial banking division of Chase, meaning that we basically owned the website and the mobile app for people with small businesses that needed help with banking, also with commercial banks. So the way it was split up was, if you have 25K to 250K in revenue, you're considered a small business client. If you have over 250K, you're considered a commercial client. And I would think it goes up to 25 million. You're in that commercial range, and then 25 million and above, you're considered almost like a investment banking type of client. So I did that small to medium sized business, made digital experiences for those types of businesses. Yes.
Okay. When I hear business banking and these type of things, I want to ask a lot of questions,
Yeah.
but that's the first part of the development program, so we'll
Right.
get to my follow-up questions
Okay.
soon enough. So what were kind of the other 2
Yep.
different type of roles that you
Yep.
did?
So the second role was so after 8 months, moved on to my second role, which was in payments. So it was managing our relationship with Visa, MasterCard, Discover, all the payment networks. So that was my second role. That one was a very analytical role. I was in Excel all day, exporting data from Visa, just like on our consumer card spend. Because Chase's primary relationship at the time was with Visa, so I would have insights into where customers were spending, who the largest merchants were, and it really dealt with a lot of the fees that we capture as a payment, because Chase is a payment processor.
You're talking like interchange fees?
Exactly, things like that, interchange fees. That's one of them. Exactly. So
Could you, before we move on, just for anyone that doesn't know, could you high level define what interchange fees are?
Interchange, and that's a great question, because I don't think it's that well known. So interchange fees are basically the fees that a merchant has to pay to accept credit cards, basically. So whenever I take my Chase card and I go to a gas station, I swipe my Chase card, it's typically about 2.5% of that total purchase cost that the merchant, so the gas station, has to pay Chase as the payment processor.
Got it.
Yeah, that is interchange. Yep.
So Visa versus Chase collecting this interchange fee, is there, like, both of these parties getting a little of this interchange fee split in a way, or?
So the interchange fee goes to the issuer of the credit card. So in this case, it would be Chase, but Visa has a whole nother slew of fees that they will rack on. So interchange is just one of the many fees that apply to and typically it's passed on to the merchant, and unfortunately the merchant passes on to the consumer. So we end up paying the price of these fees, but that's just part of business,
Fair. You were saying you were exporting data, so were you kind of making, I don't know, PowerPoint decks with, hey, look at these charts, look at these metrics, or what kind of was the goal of that role that you were playing in the payment space?
Yeah, so it was a few roles. So one was, what we call business as usual reporting. So showing where consumers are spending on a day-to-day basis. So we would, put together a top merchant report of, hey, this is where consumers are spending. This merchant was maybe 30th in spend 2 weeks ago, but now they went up to 25th, maybe because it's holiday season, and it might be a reason why merchant X moved up. So putting together that top merchant report, putting together an analysis of why things are happening in the industry as the way they are. So that was I would say 40 to 50% of the job. And then the other half of the job was doing doing analyses on these fees that we're charging. So I say we, it was an ex-employer. It is an ex-employer, but at the time we, right? So we were doing analyses on fees we were charging to merchants and figuring out were there any gaps. Like, are we, for example, not charging a fee that we should? And in my time in that role, we actually did come across a situation like that, and we were able to rectify it. It was good for the business, not so great for merchants, but so that we were doing that kind of reconciliation to figure out where gaps might be.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So, was it you solo, or were you working with a team?
It was me and two other teammates. Obviously, they were a lot more experienced at the time because I was part of that Chase Leadership Development Program, so they taught me a lot. To be honest, I didn't know the first thing about Excel when I was getting into that role, but now I can fly around in it. So big thanks to those teammates.
No, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So a lot of development.
Yeah,
development program.
It was the development program. Yeah.
Fair. So from starting off, we got digital product organization.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got your payments.
Yep.
And what was third?
The third one, so the third role was actually a very short-lived role because in our third role, the goal is to the goal is to find a full-time job within the company, which isn't hard to do once you're already in the door. It's really just figuring out what you like and making sure you interview with all those teams. But the third role was a more of a finance-heavy role, where it was the same part of the business at Chase of payments, but more financial reporting, financial planning, pro forma financial statements, trying to get those things put together. Wasn't my favorite role, and honestly a big reason why I went back to digital was because I realized in these two roles, payments and finance, that being in Excel all day is not what I wanted to do. Like I got good at it, but it wasn't that exciting to me. There was not much collaboration because you're really just doing analyses on your own most of the day. Sure. And the digital product life was the exact opposite. I don't have to, like I said, work in Excel all day. It's very collaborative, working with all different types of teams, whether it be the UX designers or the engineers that actually develop it. So being in the middle of that fit my interest much better than a payments or a finance type role did.
Nice. So right before we move on, just to kind of get clarity here, was this, if you're just an Excel financial statement, something like investment banking, that side of things, or what was the role, or what was your department? Yeah,
so the payments role was part of the JP Morgan side of things, the investment bank, just because we had there was very large companies we would process payments for. Like, we're talking very, very large companies. So because of that, even though it's maintaining our relationship with Visa and MasterCard and those types of guys, because of these large relationships, that did fall under the JP Morgan umbrella. But the other two roles, it's interesting because the way it works is JP Morgan Chase is split out in like consumer banking, small business banking, commercial banking, investment banking. Those first three that I mentioned are all under that Chase umbrella. Investment banking is under the JP Morgan umbrella. So the great thing about this program was I was able to get experience in multiple parts of the company there. So it was part of Chase, part of JP Morgan. Yeah.
Cool. So essentially, fast forward, it was kind of cut short. I think the last one is what I'm hearing.
Right.
And so when you made that transition, did they they chose for you the first time, but did they choose again, or did you say, "Hey, this is what I'm gravitating towards"? Did you
Yeah.
have an evaluation at the end of the program saying, "Hey, this is what do you think?" and
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah. So so I ended up going back to the same team that I was on as that first rotation, the digital product role, and I did perform well. I got a great evaluation at the end of the 8 months. So because of that, I was able to I don't want to say easily, but I was able to get I had a foot in the door with that team, and they were happy to have me back. So that's kind of how that went down.
Nice.
Yeah, it was just one or two interviews. That was it.
All right. Nice.
Yeah.
So all of this backstory is basically leading to now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're the man.
Yeah.
You're the man behind the what would you call it? The digital experience, the online banking experience.
Exactly. So I moved to Citi, like I said, about after 3 years.
Citibank.
Citibank after 3 years at Chase, and right now, yes, my team completely owns like the online and mobile experiences for Citibank. We are part of the consumer division, so if any of you guys bank with Citi and use our website or our mobile app, that is what we live and breathe every day, and we try to make better.
So this digital product organization at Chase, coming back there, did you take away something from there to make that transition to Citi? Like, is it the same job, little different,
Everything I know came from Chase. When it comes to yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry to break you up. So
Yeah.
basically, you were also the Chase mobile app.
Yes,
man.
yes, exactly. So I did get about 2 years of experience at Chase, but I was learning at that time. I was really just because as a finance major, as an econ major, who would have thought I would be building digital apps and websites and stuff. I thought I would be, like I said, in Excel all day, but found out I didn't like it. So I was at Chase really just learning a lot and implementing a lot too. But I was able to basically take all those processes I learned at Chase and try to implement them at Citi. And the way I transitioned from Chase to Citi was interesting because I basically wanted to make a move just to accelerate my career. So I interviewed with Citi, and once I told some ex-managers at Chase that I was interviewing, they definitely put in a good word with some contacts they knew at Citi, and that's how I was able to land this role. So within the industry, people do know each other. People move around these companies. So it's just that's why when people say networking is important, it's not a joke. It really is important. You can work very hard. You can deliver all the results you want, which is great and very important. But in my opinion, at the end of the day, it's about people, and and people will make things happen, right? It's not the work does speak for itself, but people speak too. So yeah.
And I find it interesting based on my personal experience where you said that you told your folks at Chase that, hey, I'm interviewing with Citi.
Mm-hmm.
So my assumption is your relationship must have been like maybe friendship, like that
Yep.
level.
No,
you guys were tight.
That's what you have to do. I mean, I think that's incredibly important at the workplace. Like, at the end of the day, when it comes to you have a good manager when they're looking out for you as a human being, not just as a resource within the company. Yeah. So if you're able to establish that relationship and with your manager, and it doesn't even have to be a manager, it can be anybody. It can be your peer. It can be someone who might not be a manager yet, but has been at the company for a long time and has worked in the industry for a while. You can meet all these types of people. It's just important to honestly just be open and friendly and work hard with everybody, and that will pay off, especially within the same industry.
Dang. Yeah. So in terms of ramp up from what you took away from Chase and went to Citi,
Mm-hmm.
right before I get into this, knowing the skills you knew in college, I understand you learned Excel on the job.
Yep.
But do you think that someone without a college education or degree could do the work you're doing day to day, whether Citi or Chase, apart from maybe the organizations having a hey, you need a 4-year degree to get this kind of qualification to even
Yes.
get an interview, but day to day, like the skills, you know?
Yeah. So, yes and no. I think technically, like the technical skills that I have, you learn on the job. So anyone can come in and learn that stuff. But, or anyone can come in and do it. But what I mean to say is college and school and work, what it teaches you is hard work, to be honest. And if you use those types of like the soft skills that you get from college, they translate over to the workplace. So hard work, organization, just like knowing how to get stuff done, like getting homework done and getting a task done at work are very similar things. So if you suck at getting homework done, you're probably not going to do too well at work. So that's where I think going to school is important. But I do think that if maybe school is just not it, and you do get things done maybe outside of school, then I would say yeah, you could come into the workplace and pick it up. But like you mentioned, there are some toll gates you have to go through to get a job, especially at these big banks, and they will be looking for a degree in a role like mine. There are other roles where you don't need crazy qualifications, but and that can get your foot in the door. But if you want to be in a traditional corporate business making decision type of role, you need that degree.
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay. So, coming from Chase, coming to Citi, did you feel, and not to bash any of these banks, but did you feel that, hey, I leveled up or leveled down, where you felt that, hey, the product, and I'll speak, you don't need to maybe say it because of conflict of interest, so I'll say it, but I personally believe that Chase, in terms of a UI, UX, kind of that happiness feeling when you use the app, it's a lot more streamlined than your Citi experience, and that's just me being very honest. So no offense to your current employer, but so I guess from this regard, like in terms of maybe fulfillment or kind of the whole task at hand, did you feel that, hey, I need to improve this much and I can do it?
Yep.
Or were you kind of perplexed of why things are a certain way, or did you also understand maybe this is why Citi is at the position it is versus the perception that Chase has? You see what
No, I get what you're saying, and I think both banks are strong at what they do. I think Chase is very, very good at creating products that are good for everybody, because they have branches almost. I don't know the exact number, but I'm almost sure it's in like the between 45 and 50 states. Like that, Chase has a branch presence in almost all states in America. So you have to create a product that works for everybody. So while Citi is different in that our branch presence is only in a few states in America. I think it's 7 or 8 states, so it's not many. So we create products that we think are tailored for people in those branch areas. We create more offers. So when you go to Chase, like if you look at their, for example, interest rate, they don't have an interest rate. It's like 0.01%. Like it's extremely low, and that's because the product speaks for itself. But if you bank at Citi, you'll find offers. You'll find American Airlines offers where you can get a lot of miles for opening a bank account, which is not.
Yeah, I got 30,000 miles for opening a checking account back in the day.
There you go. So we do a lot of those types of things. We do offer-based promotions, while Chase does more of a, they just want to be in as many households as possible across America, but they won't give you that extra value proposition that Citi can give.
Very interesting. So now let's get into the meat of it.
Yeah.
So day to day, you basically are hands-on, living, breathing the Citi mobile app and the website?
Yeah. Primarily the mobile app, but I do dip my hand into the website as well, yes.
Okay, and just to juxtapose it, at Chase you were doing something similar?
Chase was actually primarily the website. So I went from website to mobile app. I personally prefer the mobile app just because mobile is more interesting. Like you use it all the time, and you can be. It's more relatable.
Okay.
That's how I see it. Yeah.
Fair. So more bigger impact kind of feel.
Yes, it can be. We're trying to make it that way. We're trying to make mobile, the way to go, right? Yeah. So I think anyone in digital is trying to make mobile the way to go. So being a part of that transformation is super interesting.
Cool. So I was going to ask, off the top of your head, is there like a ratio or percentage of if there's 100 Citi customers, 50% are mobile, 50% are desktop, or, you know?
So it really depends, right? So on what they're doing. So when it comes to checking their balances, and things like that, they will log into mobile. But when it comes to maybe transferring money, um, or like maybe checking their statements, those tend to be more on desktop. So
Okay.
yeah,
Which makes perfect sense.
right,
I didn't think about it that way,
right.
which makes perfect sense. So, if you could, maybe a typical day in the life of
Yep.
your role, and what's kind of your role title or
Yeah,
name?
yeah. So I am a digital product manager at Citi, right? So day in the life, it honestly it can go so many different ways. It really depends on where you are in a project and what you need to get accomplished. So I'll try to give I'll try to give a typical day though. So first, first I think it's important to understand the role. So I'll explain it a little bit. So as a digital product manager, you own a product or a program end to end. So that means if something, launching a feature, if reporting on that feature, everything stops with you. So what I do is on a day to day basis, I work with let's just go through a product lifestyle, right? So you have an idea of building a new banking product. Let's call like mobile check deposit, right? That was such a big thing when it came out maybe 10, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, let's say, to basically take a picture of a check and deposit it. That's the type of stuff the digital organization focuses on. So let's take that as an example. So first, you have this idea in your head, right? Oh wow, why do people have to come into a bank to deposit a check? Let's try to make this digital. So first, you engage the design team, the UI UX team. You ask them what is the best possible way to make this happen? Should it be maybe should it be its own feature on the mobile app? Do we need to build a separate app for it? Those types of questions go to the design team. They kind of tell you what they think is the best possible customer experience for building this feature. They'll tell you where to put it in the app, how it should look, and then I'm basically overseeing that, making sure what they're saying makes sense. I'm making sure that they're not going overboard. Like, hey, we have to hit a timeline. You can't put every single feature in here. We need to be more focused. So I'm kind of overseeing that. While they're doing that, I'm also starting to take what they're doing and I pass it on to the engineers. And I say, hey, engineers, how much time is this going to take to build? Right? Is it even possible? Right? Give me the timeline. How much time? How feasible is this? They'll tell me, we can do this, we can't do that. I'll take that back to the design team. They'll kind of adjust it, and what I like to do is actually bring the two teams together, let them talk it out themselves. Just I think something that more product managers should do. So let them kind of decide what the best way to build this feature is. Okay. So we have a feature now. The engineers, we're done with design. The engineers go off. They go out and build it. They keep me updated on how things are going, etc. Now I start taking it through governance, legal, compliance, fraud, anti-money laundering. That is a very important step, especially when working in the financial industry, because as you know, the financial industry is highly regulated. So you can't have things go wrong. You can't. Someone can't take a check of $1,000 and we deposit 700 like that.
Right.
You're messing with people's money. So we got to make sure we go through the right processes from a governance perspective. So they will rip my product to shreds. So for example, with mobile check deposit, they'll say, you can't have more than $5,000 deposited via this digital channel because there is some risk that the person is not there in the branch, not physically there. So we need to put some controls on that. To me, that's not good news. I want someone to deposit $100,000 to the bank like that. that's like a promotion.
Like because you're able to make that process so secure or something of this nature.
So simple to bring more money into the bank, more deposits into the bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
But governance will say, look, can't do that. So you got to make sure we go through those processes. Once we go through all of that, then we're ready to release into production. We'll release it into production, and then it's about monitoring, right? I need to ensure that everything is working appropriately. I need to ensure that I need to report back to the business, show results. Is this performing as well as we expected? Is it not, etc. So that on a day-to-day basis is just dealing with all that stuff, is what I do on a day-to-day basis. So on some days it might be more working with design, on some day it might be more working with engineers, some days it might be working with governance, some days it might be working with my business partners, my manager, etc., reporting out to them, helping them understand what's going on. And then some days it might just be thinking about what's next, So those are all the types of things that we do on a day-to-day basis.
So, quick question. So, this is more what's happening right now. So,
Okay.
I saw an inflated offer for the Citi Custom Cash. Sure, you're familiar with
Yep,
it.
very.
So, instead of the normal spend $750 and get $200 as a sign-up bonus, I saw an increase it to $300 for $750 in spend.
Mm-hmm.
So, my question to you is, in terms of me seeing an offer, like when I log into the app or the website, do you control everything around the process slash workflow of the app?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it that, okay, there's maybe an equivalent of you as a digital product manager
Mm-hmm.
for the custom cash, for the double cash, for city checking accounts, high yield savings,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
this? Or anything that touches the app, you have the oversight in general?
Yeah.
You see where my question
No,
is?
I see. I understand. It's a good question. So, there's a cards marketing team, right? So there's the team that comes up with these offers, right? So they want to increase the offer to $300. What they do now is they say, "Hey, digital team, we have this great offer. Help us make it come to life for people signing into the app." So what then happens is they work with us. We create the experience. So it's really quite simple. But the important thing is that they come to us early. We make sure that we meet their timelines so that we can meet their timelines, things like that. So there is some behind the scenes process to just make sure it comes alive. But that's typically how it works. Yeah, they just come to us, and if it's an important project, we will implement it.
So if I'm making a guess, it's basically you have a marketing campaign that
Mm-hmm.
the card marketing team has an idea of, hey, we want to push this
Yep.
bonus.
Yep.
So it gets approval by someone in some engineering team to put that overlay or that instant, pop up.
Yep.
And so they integrate that. And I'm assuming maybe governance or legal, seeing the writing, the language, this is all correct, available in these XYZ states, not
Yes.
available in California or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so the testing you were saying, that's something where probably you're just making sure, like, okay, this works. Like, how many times do you test it, or do you have test case scenarios? And are you, how
Yeah.
involved are you? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very involved in the testing. So, so let's just go through it, right? So the cards marketing team comes to us. What we do then is they typically will have the marketing landing pages designed, ready to go. So the good thing is that they take some of that load off of us. What they really need us for is the engineers, the implementation part of it. So luckily, like, the design team is off the hook in a project like this. The design team I work with day to day. There's another design team that came up with the marketing value proposition pages. So they'll come to us. They'll show us the pages. They'll tell us how it. For example, for this one, you need to hook it up to the account opening process, right? So we would hook this marketing offer into an account opening application, right? So we'll do that development process. Once it's developed, we have testers. So literally people who condition data in a what we call a UAT environment, user acceptance testing environment, right? So this is basically an environment that only city employees have access to. It basically tries to mimic what consumers see day to day. So we will condition some test data to get this marketing offer. So when a customer, when the tester logs into their account, they'll see the offer, they'll go through it, they'll make sure every single thing is working as expected. So not just the happy path of, oh, I type in all this right information and it works. We got to test the negative scenarios too. What if someone enters, because usually as a marketed offer, we're targeting it to people we already know. We already know some of the data that they might have on hand. So what if someone enters a different SSN that they gave us before? We have to make sure that that customer is not approved, because now you're telling us two different sets of information, like SSN from before. Now you have a different SSN, a little fishy. We got to be wary of that stuff. So they got to test all those different types of scenarios, and once everything works, they sign off on it, and marketing's ready to launch.
So if my address is different, that's maybe okay, but there's a potential you may ask for verification documents. Or...
Yeah, it honestly depends bank to bank what their rules are. I know Citi is strict, right? So if you had given us an address that might not be your latest one, there's a chance you will not get approved. So when it comes to digital banking, it's better. I believe the banks think it's better safe than sorry. So they don't want to let fraud through, any type of money laundering through. So it's best that if you want to open an account online, any type of bank account or card account, it's good to make sure that you have all your information updated.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So this is more of like a fun question, but also it answers kind of something I've been thinking about. Let's say I want to change up the whole Citi app. I just want to break it all apart, start fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, there's some type of timeline, of course, that goes behind this. So what level of Citi, apologies,
Mm-hmm.
what level would kind of be behind those decisions? Is that all the way at the C-suite, or does it not need to go that high? Is that maybe your immediate manager? You see what I mean? And how many levels above are there these type of questions?
Yeah, no. For something like a complete redesign of the mobile app, that will take a C-suite approval. The reason why is because it's a lot more than slapping new paint on it. If you want to redesign the whole app, you got to touch the back end systems that no one sees. And when you're at a bank like Citi or Chase or any bank that's been around for 40, 50, hundreds of years.
Bank of America.
Yeah. Those back-end systems are not the most modern systems, right? So you have to revamp all that first, then you can slap the new paint on the app. So that takes an enormous investment. So if the business case is there, the CEO or the C-suite person will sign off on it. If it's not there, can't do it. You just have to kind of work with what you have.
Dang. So obviously that's redesigning the whole app.
Right.
Let's say I want to, this is just an example. Let's say I think, just as an average person who's not working at Citi, but definitely a user, I see that, hey, there could be an improvement here, which could streamline my process to log in or do something.
Yes.
So not to get too specific, but let's say I have a Costco credit card, which is a co-branded card by Citi. And, if I see something in that process that could be optimized or maybe lead to, there's a hypothetical scenario, there's no checking account offered, but let's say for some reason there was an affiliation with, hey, if you have a Costco credit card and it's a business card, then maybe you get some benefit on the Citi business checking side of things. Just an example. So if you want that type of kind of change, or you think that, hey, this would increase business checking account business overall for Citi because of our co-branded relationship, and you have that conjecture or hypothesis, is that something you can test or bring, saying, hey, this is my idea, and maybe you have some data to back it, but is that something that you would work after hours, or a special project, or you see where I'm coming from?
I see where you're coming from. That something like that's tough within the digital organization. Because really what we own is the website, the app. Like, we don't own these marketing offers. But that's kind of what you're getting at. It's like, so something like, you would need to be on the marketing team or the Costco business team to come up with that idea. And then you would then need to reach out to someone like me to implement it. So coming up with those ideas, that's a whole nother side of the business that personally I'm not too familiar with.
Okay.
So yeah,
So it's almost what I'm hearing is there's a strategy side, your
exactly.
tactical overall planning. You're more the operational, making it happen based on XYZ requirements.
Right, like that. So that's a part of it. But don't don't get me wrong. Where there's no it's not just operations in my department. There's a lot of strategy that goes on in the digital organization. Because, for example, let's think about payments. How do you make people either like spend more via their digital experience, so maybe transfer money or bring more money in? So we have to think of ways to do that, whether it be changing some sort of digital experience or, for example, like think of a feature like moving money from X bank to Citi, making it super easy digitally to do that.
Yeah.
Right? That brings money to Citi, right? That's what we're looking for. So there's a lot of strategy for things that we can control, but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that we can't control, which is some of those things that you were talking about before.
Got it. So essentially, so just an example,
Yeah.
if, and I've noticed this on certain bank features,
Mm-hmm.
if I have, let's say, 3 credit cards with said bank, I add one of my banks to one of the credit cards, it's not automatically populated for the other 2 to make payments from it.
Right.
So that's something that makes my experience kind of crappy,
Right.
and I need to re-enter it. So that's something that you would, okay,
Exactly.
you would implement. That's
Exactly.
pretty
Like
cool.
we would think about it, we would implement it. Because someone that's not into the digital app and website, they might not know the pain points and where we can make it better, not just for the customer, but for the business as well.
Bear with me with this question. So it's almost like when it comes to auditing, right? If you have your accounts, your book of accounting, but you're your own auditor, naturally there's a conflict of interest. My question to you is, when it comes to this type of feedback, if your team thinks about it and implements it, it sounds like a black box where you're kind of thinking of the same ideas, but do you do any market research or surveying or kind of, hey, what would you like, those surveys like, how would you like to improve Citi? But I don't know how many people are giving their feedback.
Yeah.
So this is kind of my question of how are you actually getting maybe the community of Citi or the real users their feedback?
No, definitely. So obviously you have your normal channels where customers can, give their feedback to us, but a lot of it has to do with first like competitive analyses, understanding what's out there and seeing what we can do ourselves to be better. So you always start with that. So market research is important. We also rely a lot on our research department, on that design team, to help us with that research, with figuring out what's out there, thinking of new consumer experiences, and then we can help make that come to life. Other things and this is a personal opinion of mine, is when we're living and breathing this all day, every day, we sometimes are able to come up with ideas that maybe the day-to-day consumer might not think of because we're thinking about it every day. And I know that's not the best answer to say, hey, we think we know better than consumers, but
It makes sense.
yeah, sometimes we do know what we're talking about. And again, at the end of the day, the unfortunate part is, for the consumer, the unfortunate part is the business priorities matter almost as much as the consumer. So we have to always balance that. It's like you can't just go out and release products that make the best customer experience. You got to release products that also bring back value to the business. So it's a balance of both. It's taking that customer feedback and saying, yes, that would deepen relationship with customers, which brings business, right? So that's one aspect of it. But also, it's like you can't just go out and create things that are just going to be a cost to the business. You got to be thinking of things that will bring the business back value as well. That could just be me, because that's kind of the culture that is instituted in teams I've worked on. There might be other managers and other teams that don't think like that. So it really depends on what team you're on and who your leaders are.
Gotcha. So basically the revenue drivers.
Yeah,
Is basically
yeah.
Okay. So what I'm thinking about when you say that is, it sounds kind of like, let me put it like this.
Mm-hmm.
Out of, let's say, 10 features
Mm-hmm.
that you release, how often do you release and maybe have to take back the whole effort that you put behind it, or is there some type of A/B testing or some type of pilot
Yeah.
program, something like this?
Those are great questions, especially from a digital perspective, because I feel like some of those words you just said are very niche to our. I might be wrong, but
For consulting space.
yeah,
So,
there you go.
yeah.
So, first of all, we a new, let's just say this, a new version of the mobile app is released monthly. So every month I have an opportunity to release something new.
Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. So every single month, like on
yeah.
the first of the month, or like.
It depends.
Okay.
It's usually in the middle of the month, but it keeps me very, very busy. I'm a busy guy because of that. Yeah, it's crazy. So we do have a monthly release. So what was the other part of your question? Sorry.
Pilot programs, A/B
Right.
testing. So yeah, because if it's every month, then how much do you have that lead time, right, between updates, etc.
Exactly. So if something we release something and something does break, we always have to be prepared for that scenario. So first of all, there are ways to mitigate that, right? You release, well, you might release it to maybe 20% of customers, right? Okay, and you're monitoring it. You realize something's going wrong. You bring it back to 0%. Put the old feature back out there. So that's one way we do it. Other ways we do it is we have basically a on-off switch. It's, hey, we built this new thing, turn it on. It's out there in production. Oh crap, it's not working. Turn it off, revert back to the old one. Yeah. So those are some of the things that we do. So it's very important to always keep your eyes on how things are performing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then.
And A/B testing, just to,
Yeah,
sorry,
please,
I do want to talk about A/B testing.
Of course.
That's very important. So A/B testing is something we definitely look into as much as we can, because so what we try to do is we put, one experience out there, we put another experience out there that's trying to get the same thing done, so we can show 50% of customers the A test, 50% customers the B test, whichever one is performing better. We'll go with that one. It's literally that simple. Yeah. So
No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And any time frame for that A/B test, like 15 days or 1,000 users.
Usually
that use the feature?
it's usually a time a time period. So I would say it's 2-3 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So
We want to get some good data out there. Yeah.
makes perfect sense. I did want to ask this question for anybody thinking of joining your team, or let's stick to your team specifically,
Okay.
being a mobile app developer or manager, the
Yeah.
person between the development side, aka your technical side, and the business side.
Right.
What are probably top 3 skills off the top of your head that are definitely crucial, or must-haves, needs
Yeah.
have need to have.
One is to love collaboration. Because I don't know if you must have caught it, like I'm working with design, I'm working with engineers, I'm working with governance, I'm working with my own managers and his managers, I'm working with marketing to implement their stuff.
It's very cross-functional.
Yeah, extremely cross-functional. So you're in the middle of it all. You have to love collaborating, which I do. So that's one. 2, communication. Kind of goes hand in hand with collaboration, but you can love collaboration, but if you can't communicate well with all these different teams, you're not going to do very well, right? Because designers talk very differently than engineers, and oh my gosh, don't even get me started on the business. Like the business is like they have their own language. It's all about, like I said, revenue driving. So you have to be able to, the way I see it is the UI UX designers are much more relaxed, outgoing, so you kind of have to have a more chill vibe when you're working with them. When it comes to the engineers, they're just like, tell me what to do. X, Y, Z. Let's get this done. Be direct with them. It's done. Business. You got to tell the business what they want to hear, right? Like, show them the money.
Yeah.
Right? Governance, you got to, that's a very tricky one, but you have to be able to communicate your product extremely clearly, effectively, and be prepared for things that they might ask, right? Because if you're not prepared, they're not going to approve your product. So communication is number 2. Number 3, I would say, is forward, being able to think in a forward fashion, thinking forwardly.
Forward-looking manner.
Yeah, forward-looking manners. Yes. So the reason I say that is because as a product owner, you own your roadmap. So something that is a constant, it's like a living document, like a resume. We're always adjusting what we're going to build throughout the next year. So it's the end of 2021 now. We already have our full 2022 roadmap planned. So you have to constantly be thinking out, like, where am I taking my program? And that's critical as a product owner, because you can't do any of this other work I've been talking about, working with design, working with engineers, without that roadmap. So being able to build that and sell it to your business partners is very important.
Wow. So on that note, any final words for our viewers who are thinking about maybe getting into the digital experience, whether Citi, Chase, big banks, and any overall final words?
Yeah, for sure. So if you want to get into an organization like mine, I think what's the most important is your previous experience, right? So that will get your foot in the door with an interview. And once you get the interview, it's all up to you. Like, so really what matters is getting your foot in that door. So if you're able to, if you have product management experience, digital or not, or any type of business analyst experience, I think you definitely have a good shot. If you don't, I would say try to get into those roles first, maybe at a smaller company where you're able to get into a role. And once you get that product manager, those words on your resume, take your chance, take a shot, get your resume out there. There is a definitely a good chance, because I'm seeing it right now. Like we're hiring people, and they're not from the most prestigious schools or anything like that. We're looking for people with product management experience that have those 3 skills that I talked about. So just make sure your resume has some of those key experience points, and I think you have a good chance of getting an interview. And once you get that interview, it's really being able to show your passion for digital products, showing your passion for not only driving business results, but like I've been saying, but also great user experiences, and just being a person that people want to work with on a day-to-day basis. That's what I look for when I'm interviewing somebody. So yeah, that's it.
All right, nice.
Yeah, and so for all the viewers out there, if you don't know, I've known Lalit for over 10, 12, 13 years.
Wow, almost 15 years.
15 years. It's been crazy. So make sure you smash that like button for him. Subscribe.
Yeah.
And I know I've watched a lot of your videos. You typically do some beatboxing at the end. Show us what you got.
All right, man. All right, y'all. Thanks for coming to the end. Peace.
Peace out.
Thanks, y'all.